Local presentation of Read About It is made possible in part by a grant from Cox Communications of Oklahoma City, proud sponsor of this effort to promote reading, education, and literacy in our community.
A dialogue about marriage will be the topic on Read About It tonight. Hi, I'm BJ Williams. Diane and John Rehm will be talking about their book, Toward Commitment. Susie Beasley will talk with Ruby Soutier. Kids Corner will feature Ronna Davis. We also have Doug Benton, Brian Hearn, and Dr. Terry Clark. Coming up, Diane and John Rehm.
Following public service program is brought to you by the Metropolitan Library System. And now, Read About It, with your host, BJ Williams.
Diane Rehm has hosted the Washington, D.C.-based Diane Rehm Show since 1979. Currently, it's seen in over 60 cities and is broadcast internationally by the Armed Forces Network. John Rehm, her husband, has been a highly successful Washington attorney, both for the government and in private practice. He's recently retired, and one of the things they have done is write a book, Toward Commitment, a dialogue about marriage. They were in Oklahoma City on October 29th. I had an opportunity to talk to them at the Full Circle Bookstore. I think you'll enjoy what they had to say about Toward Commitment. Diane, what prompted you to write this book?
I think it was the experience primarily of having written, finding my voice, feeling as though when John and I went out on tour for that book, people were interested in our marriage, in what I had written about that, and really, I think, wanted to know more. And it struck me that no book had ever been written from the inside of a marriage, an ongoing marriage where two people were still together. I just felt it would be valuable. Did you feel the same way?
Well, as you know, I was perhaps a little less certain than you at the outset because I was skeptical as to what value this might have. But in response to your question, I would add to what Diana said that I think we both were terribly taken by a kind of, I'll use a strong word, crisis that exists in the whole field of commitments and the manner in which the younger people either regard commitment as too casual on the one hand or too demanding on the other. And I think, therefore, in the broader sense, we were trying to respond to a need for a better assessment of what long-term commitment is all about.
Well, I think it's pretty obvious that you both decided, I'm going to write this together, but did you sit down and work out how you were going to do that? Because this book has a particular format,
yes.
A very formal approach, I thought.
At the outset, it was Diane's thought that we might write a book. I didn't know what the book would be about, and even when she said marriage, I was unsure. But she said, and I think wisely at the time, just plunge in. Just do a little brief essay on a topic. Any topic.
Right.
Which I did, and then the more I wrote, the more topics occurred to me and to us indeed, until finally, as you know, the book deals with 26 topics. But at the outset, I put it in terms of a little boat being launched into deep waters. I got into the water, but I had no idea where it was going.
And what we did truly was each of us wrote separate essays on 26 topics, which we did not exchange until after we had finished. And then we sat down with a tiny tape recorder and did a 15-minute dialogue on each of those 26 topics. I then transcribed each of those 15-minute dialogues. So you had essay, dialogue, essay, dialogue. He wrote his dialogue, he wrote his essay, I wrote my essay, and then we had a dialogue. So it's a unique format, and as I say, it's the first book that has ever been done from the inside of an ongoing marriage.
Now, did you think of the topics? Did you sit down before you started writing and say, okay, these are the 26 topics? Or
That's what he wanted.
Yeah, as a lawyer, I want to know how the first sentence would read and how the last sentence would read. Diane would not permit me to do that.
Oh,
but
dear.
no, to answer your question, the topics just sort of evolved as we did 1, 2, and 3. More would occur to us. It was not a terribly disciplined process in that regard, although I think we were satisfied at the end that the 26 topics really did cover most of the issues you might run into, and we've had people affirm that.
And we asked ourselves, is there anything we've left
Absolutely.
out? And we came to the conclusion at the end of the 26, it was right.
Well, you did seem to hit what in my experience, were most of the things that happen in a marriage, but I thought that the impact really was when you read the whole thing. You got little bits and pieces, but when you added them all up, you really had a picture of a marriage.
I'm so glad.
Because you had all of these different little facets. It was interesting to watch the back and forth.
Well,
play.
and the growth. I hope what you see in the book is two people wrestling with a lot of different topics. One of the topics that gave us the most difficulty, perhaps surprisingly for you or others, was the topic of in-laws. And we struggled with that. We fought over that. We fought even in the writing process.
Particularly in the writing
that.
process, yes.
And it was difficult, but we got through it, and the writing of the book was in itself for us just a wonderful experience, a growth experience, even having been married by then for 41 years and now almost 43.
And I would add a healing experience with respect to the chapter on in-laws, the chapter on the third person. Those are the two outstanding examples, perhaps. We really arrived at a new position that we both held with respect to a given issue, going far beyond our expectations. And that was one of the real unexpected benefits of the whole process.
One thing we hope is that people will understand this is not just a book for married couples. Indeed, it is a book for two people who may be living together. It may be a book for homosexuals who've had difficulties in their own long-term relationships. The book is meant for everyone.
Well, I found it fascinating as just a look at a relationship. As you said, it's for anyone. I think even those who are not in a relationship, young people is what sprang to mind.
Indeed.
Really is young people looking at it and seeing, yes, it's a lot of hard work, but there are many rewards that come to it as well.
I think it can be usefully used almost at any point in a relationship, beginning, middle, even towards the end, because we feel so strongly that this is a process, an ongoing process that never ends until you die, and therefore to review those topics and ask the questions we set out at the end of the book, we think is a discipline that would be useful really to all who are in any way affected by a long-term relationship.
Yeah. Well, I think it comes across the ground that you have traveled in the writing. Obviously, it was done just a year or so ago, but you were able, even in those short essays, I thought, to traverse back and forth between the now and the then. I was particularly impressed with your ability to recall and talk about those things in such a way that they seem very real and very immediate.
Lots of therapy.
Right.
Lots of therapy. I don't think we could have done it without that.
Oh, I think that's correct.
Well, I wish we could talk a lot more. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but I want to thank you both very much for being with me.
Thank you.
It's been our pleasure.
Thanks. Remember, you can find Toward Commitment at your favorite bookstore and your local library. Coming up next is Susie Beasley. She'll be talking with Ruby Soutier about a mystery I think we'll all find interesting.
Ruby, tell us about this book, Purity and Death by J.D. Robb, a.k.a. Nora Roberts.
Well, this is the 15th in a long-running series. It started, I'm not sure how many years ago, but the first one was called Naked in Death.
Right.
And Purity in Death as they all are, is set in the near future. I think it's like about 2050 or something. I'm not quite sure. But they have all kinds of interesting things like cars that hover in the air. I guess they're not really cars, but vehicles that hover in the air. But what they are mysteries. They're sort of police procedurals. The main character is Eve Dallas, and she is a lieutenant with the New York City Police Department. And she solves murder mysteries, basically. In this particular book, there is a computer virus that infects not only the computer, but infects the operator of the computer as well. And the way this virus happens is an email is sent to the computer, and then it infects the computer, and then the operator sits there, and it causes some sort of brain swelling in the operator, ending in death.
So what did you like best about the series and this book in particular?
Well, what I always like the best about the series is the character development. Nora Roberts always creates wonderful, memorable characters. And in this one, you have Eve Dallas, who is a very independent police lieutenant, and she is married to an elusive Irishman named Rourke. I don't know if that's his first name or his last name, but he's always called Rourke. And he is a multi-millionaire, probably even a billionaire, and some of the stuff he does are kind of in the gray areas of the law, which is kind of funny because he's married to this upright, upstanding police lieutenant who...
That's kind of like opposite attracts type thing.
Right.
So this series, J.D. Robb, a.k.a. Nora Roberts, keeps you moving. There's no lulls in it.
There are no lulls. It's action-packed. It's exciting. The villains are scary. Sometimes the villains are not 100% evil, which is probably more how it is in real life. But the character development, even the secondary characters, is just so entertaining and so much fun to read. But yes, they are murder mysteries, and I love mysteries. So.
Well, Ruby, we really appreciate you coming and sharing with us Purity and Death, written by J.D. Robb, a.k.a. Nora Roberts. And this book is available at your local library and perhaps your local bookstore. Thank you. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Susie and Ruby. And now with me is Doug Benton, and I'm going to tell him a little bit about the Cherokee Nation that I'll bet he didn't know. First, I want to say, Doug, this is Cherokee. The photography is by David Fitzgerald.
Oh, it'd be great then.
Great, absolutely beautiful. And Robert J. Conley, also an Oklahoman who's a Cherokee writer, has written the text. It's a history of the Cherokee. And I'll bet you didn't know that there were Cherokees who moved into Arkansas long before the Trail of Tears.
No. I mean, that's not what we're taught.
No, it sure isn't. But in 1794, a group of Cherokee, both full-blood, mixed-blood, and also some very upset and disgruntled Tories moved from the South into Arkansas. 1794. They had almost continuous trouble with a little group of people already here called the Osage.
Oh, yes.
And it wasn't until the actual removal and the Trail of Tears that they signed a treaty, an act of union, and came back into the tribe. Some of them at one point ended up in Texas. So there were Texas Cherokees, Western Cherokees, early settlers, and so on. But all of that's in this beautiful book, which has lots of interesting information. And of course, with photography by David Fitzgerald, we've got some gorgeous stuff. He went back and did some photography of the areas that the Cherokee were living in before the Trail of Tears as well. And it's quite an interesting book.
It sounds like there's some substantial history in this. So often when you see books that are primarily pictures, the text doesn't offer very much. But it sounds like this is it's different with this volume.
Yeah, it's got a timeline. And as I said, Robert Conley wrote the text. It's not an incredibly detailed history, but it does give you an awful lot more than what you would see in your, one semester of Oklahoma history that we get these days, which is more try to memorize the 5 civilized tribes that moved out here. But this is, I think, a lot more than just a coffee table book.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like it is.
Yeah, it's, as I said, it does have some interesting text. It's got also at the back a gallery of portraits of contemporary Cherokee, which is quite interesting. Goodness, we're out of time, so after a short break, we'll be back with Kids Corner.
Yo, see that girl? She sets the curve in my math class. Always has her homework right. Me? I hate homework, but I gotta do it, you know? But I found out her secret. She logs on to the Metro Library website and then clicks on their homework center. I couldn't believe what they have there. Help for math, science, English, and lots of other stuff too, like encyclopedias, newspapers, magazines, even science experiments. Metro Library's Homework Center website is one-stop shopping. You can even find the phone number of the nearest library so you can renew your library books. Check it out. It's like having the resources of an entire bookstore right in your computer. And since it's from Metro Library, you know the information will be dependable and up to the minute. But hey, I gotta go and log on and get to work. From now on, I'm setting the curve.
The next book we're going to talk about is very good. It's called The Adventures of the Blue Avenger, and it's by Norma Howe. Ronna, tell us all about it.
Well, this was a very interesting book, which I chose because of the cover.
It looks like a comic book superhero cover.
Yes, and I thought, oh, this will be light and fluffy, and it actually wasn't totally light and fluffy. I would characterize it as surrealistic in a way. The boy who's the hero of this book is a 16-year-old whose father has been accidentally killed in a freak accident, and questions fate and questions whether anybody has free will or whether they're just subject to all these different factors in the universe that might cause something to happen. So he decides to change his name, exercising his own free will, and I guess with his mother's permission, to Blue Avenger.
Oh, he changes his name completely.
He changes his name completely. His first name is Blue, and his last name is Avenger.
And so as the Blue Avenger, does that change his life at all?
I get the impression from reading this book that it changes how he deals with what happens around him, because as the author states, there's always some kind of choice, or many times there's some kind of choice that you can make, even if it's a small one. And what happens, for example, with his teacher, is his teacher's surrounded by some killer bees in the middle of a swim meet, and he leaps up as the Blue Avenger and grabs her and throws her or carries her into a swimming pool. And the killer
to
bees
rescue
go
her.
away. That's right.
Because he believes that he is this character.
Yes, and it just happens that there's some sports photographers there, and they take his picture, and he becomes locally famous.
How wonderful. Well, so he's got a path, he's got a future that he's embarking on by his own choice.
Exactly. You know, even though he sort of questions it as he goes along, but he becomes stronger in his identity as Blue Avenger as the novel progresses.
This sounds like a really good book for teen boys.
Yeah, about 16 years old. I think it's really good.
Great, great. You'll really like this book. It's called Adventures of the Blue Avenger, and it's by Norma Howe, and we think that you'll like it a lot at your local bookstore or at your favorite library.
Thanks, Ronna and Kelly. It's time now for the New York Times bestseller list. We'll start out with hardback fiction. Number 10 on that list is Blood Orchid by Stuart Woods, Blessings by Anna Quindlen, The Jansen Directive by Robert Ludlum, The Murder Book by Jonathan Kellerman, Chasing the Dime by Michael Connelly, From a Buick 8 by Stephen King, The Crush by Sandra Brown, Nights in Rodanthe by Nicholas Sparks. Number 2 is The Lovely Bones by Alice Sebold, and number 1 is Sue Grafton's Q is for Query. On nonfiction, the number 10 list is Bringing Down the House by Ben Mesrick, Take on the Street by Arthur Levitt with Paula Dwyer, Sandy Koufax by Jane Levy, Abraham by Bruce Feiler, Live from New York by Tom Shales and James Miller, Longitudes and Attitudes by Thomas Friedman, Let Freedom Ring by Sean Hannity, Let's Roll by Lisa Beamer with Ken Abraham. Number 2 is My Losing Season by Pat Conroy, and number 1 is Rudolph Giuliani's Leadership with Ken Curson. On the children's list, number 10 is Abarat by Clive Barker, Summerland by Michael Chabon, Hoot by Carl Hyacin, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban by J.K. Rowling, The Bad Beginning by Lemony Snicket, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets by J.K. Rowling, Double Fudge by Judy Blume, Tris by Brian Jacques. Number 2 is The Thief Lord by Cornelia Funk, and number 1 is Junie B., First Grader, Toothless Wonder by Barbara Park. Coming up next, we have Doug Benton of the Metropolitan Library System and the Oklahoma Gazette. He'll be talking with Brian Hearn, film curator at the Oklahoma City Art Museum. They have something that is very appropriate for this really scary season.
Thanks. I'm here today with Brian Hearn, who's the film curator at the Oklahoma City Museum of Art. Brian, good to see you back.
Thank you.
We didn't scare you off the first time you were on the show,
Not at all.
You're a gutsy guy. So what do you have to talk about with us today?
Well, we've got a great science fiction classic coming up at the museum on Halloween night. It's Forbidden Planet.
Oh, that's the Shakespearean science fiction, isn't it?
Absolutely, but the Shakespeare's a little thin on it, but it's still a great story, and it stars Leslie Nielsen in a straight role. He's not the wisecracking guy that we're used to seeing, as well as Anne Francis and Walter Pidgeon. And they visit a faraway planet and discover the characters of Morbius and his daughter, who are pretty unusual characters.
Yeah. Well, there has to be a scientist and his beautiful daughter in a. This film was made in the 50s.
Absolutely, yeah, 1956, and it has some really kind of humorous, to our standards today, special effects, but still pretty impressive, very colorful. And another character that's very important is Robbie the robot.
Oh, he went on to a long career after this then, didn't he?
Definitely, and he really steals the show. And he is their servant in their planet.
On the planet, yeah. Well, it seems to me I read one time that Walt Disney Studios did some of the special effects for this film.
Yeah, in fact, the unseen monster has a very Disney look to it when they're trying to capture him. And you can see the influence of Disney animators, certainly.
Yeah.
But the film is rated G, and it's suitable for all ages, which is good. And it features a really interesting electronic music soundtrack, which was never credited to any one individual, but they used it through the whole film. And almost every science fiction television or film since then could probably point in some way to Forbidden Planet. I mean, it really had an amazing influence on Star Trek and all the great science fiction films.
Yeah. I know you were saying that the special effects are a little laughable, by our standards today, but it really was. I mean, it was released by MGM, and it was not a B movie when it came out, was it?
Right.
It was
I believe it was CinemaScope and beautiful color film, and definitely has some pretty good production values.
Yes, we were joking about the Shakespeare connection, but it is loosely based on The Tempest, I think, isn't it?
Correct.
With the invisible monster being the fill-in for Caliban, I think. Yeah, so people can see a connection with The Tempest with this film.
Yes.
If they look hard enough.
Yes, definitely. and there is an interesting kind of psychological spin, because in this case, the monster comes from the id of Dr. Morbius, played by Walter Pidgeon.
Okay, so the monster is coming from within.
Yes,
Interesting
exactly.
concept. All right. Brian, thank you for coming on and being with us again and talking about Forbidden Planet, which is running Halloween night?
Halloween night at 7:30 p.m.
Okay, I hope everybody gets a chance to come see it with you.
Great.
Thank all of you for watching us now, and we'll see you again soon.
Thanks, Brian and Doug. Coming up next is M.J. Vandevenner, Director of Publications at the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum. She'll be talking with Dr. Terry Clark of the University of Central Oklahoma about one of his favorite books.
Dr. Clark, welcome this morning. And
thank you.
I heard a long time ago when I was covering fashion that if you really wanted to make a man feel good, you told him that you loved his tie.
Absolutely.
And your
no
tie
question about
is
it.
very special today.
Well, thank you. It's a Mark Twain tie. It's one of those quotable things that journalists love, since he was one of them. It says, get your facts straight and then you can distort them as you please.
I love it.
Absolutely.
Well, you're going to talk about Wallace Stegner's book. This is the first book of essays published since his death.
This was the first since his death. He's been dead almost 10 years now, and this really is not that new, but I recently picked it off my son's bookshelf and was reading it on the plane. And I'm very, very interested in anything he writes simply because he is a Western writer, that is, a writer about the West. He helps us understand who we are in this vast region in which we live, including Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. He's a terrific writer, terrific writer.
You grew up in New Mexico, is that
yes,
right?
I did. Grew up in Albuquerque, and I've been here in Oklahoma now for, well, 20-some years, but it's always a pleasure to go back, and when you do that, you think about Stegner and his description of the country and everything else, and the people there. It really makes a difference.
How does he feel about the West?
He feels the West is a region of its own, a region that's marked primarily by arid climate, but this affects that, and the sky affects everything about the people who live there, the people who are very much self-determined, people who know about the landscape, who know about the geography of the country, who are used to wide open spaces. And as a result, his descriptions are just fantastic. As a journalist, I tend to prefer nonfiction, and I like these because these are essays that are relatively short and match my attention span. Certainly his fiction goes along with it. His Pulitzer Prize winning Angle of Repose is just out of this world in terms of great literature and great description portraying the American West.
I suppose if you like Wallace Stegner, you also like Tony Hillerman.
Oh, absolutely. Matter of fact, probably the last fiction I read was Hillerman's new The Wailing Wind. Mm-hmm. Mr. Hillerman is a member of our Oklahoma Journalism Hall of Fame at UCO, but he knows the country so well that much of his writing is not fiction. It's set in the country, and he shows how the country affects the people.
Well, share a little bit of Wallace Stegner with us.
Okay, this is really from Marking the Sparrow's Fall is a series of essays, but the title comes from a previous work of his, Wolf Willow, describing where he grew up, and this sort of summarizes everything he writes. It is a country to breed mystical people, egocentric people, perhaps poetic people, but not humble ones. At noon, the total sun pours down on your single head. At sunrise or sunset, you throw a shadow 100 yards long. It was not prairie dwellers who invented the indifferent universe or impotent man. Puny you may feel here and vulnerable, but not unnoticed. This is a land to mark the sparrow's fall.
How beautiful.
I think it's fantastic.
Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you.
I know it is wet and the sun is not sunny.
Hi, my name is Jose Jimenez of your Metropolitan Library Commission. You know, most experts tell us that if you just spend 20 minutes a day reading to your child, you're not only building a bond that lasts a lifetime, but you're also preparing that child to learn how to read. Check with the experts at your Metropolitan Library for suggestions on just the right books for you and your family. And visit us at our website at www.metrolibrary.org.
Be sure and check us out on the web at www.metrolibrary.org. You can find out almost everything you wanted to know at our website, where our libraries are, the hours of operation. You can access our full catalog of resources and even put books and materials on reserve. Check us out and be sure and join us again next time.
Local presentation of Read About It is made possible in part by a grant from Cox Communications of Oklahoma City, proud sponsor